what is it like producing Ozzy Osbourne's vocals?
What's it like?
Yeah.
It's fucking nerve-wracking. Ozzy is a person who does not like recording studios.
Oh.
And he made that very clear to me early on.
Mm-hmm.
In no uncertain terms either. And he has this way of recording vocals that I think he got from working with Max Norman, who did his first and second solo records.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would record a line and then he'd go back and double it.
Oh.
So he hasn't actually sung a vocal from start to finish in a recording studio. At least he didn't up till the point that I'd worked with him since Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine since people love his voice so much, and rightly so, because it's one of the greatest voices ever. But it makes recording vocals a chore, to be certain. So you got to sit in the studio with him and go through this whole rigmarole, right? And you're dealing with someone who doesn't like being in a studio to start with. So you're in there, he's singing, so he sings a line, he's okay, go double it now. So he doubles it a couple of times, he tries it, he's like, I forgot the phrasing, let's go back and do the first one again. So you got to do that. And this process would just go on and on for hours and hours. And then there'd be a couple of times where we'd stop, we'd be waiting to hear him say something, and he'd just be standing there, and we'd know he was still there because you could hear his jewelry shaking because he's standing there like this. And then all of a sudden I'd press the talk back and he'd be like, Ozzy, he'd be like, roll the fucking tape, like that. I'd be like, okay. And I mean, it was really funny because you'd listen back to the vocal performances, to the takes where he'd kind of match the phrasing, and the phrasing in many cases didn't match at all. It was kind of a rough approximation, but it was okay because we managed to edit things and kind of massage them together. It was a nerve-wracking experience. And, to be fair to Ozzy, like I said, he'd made it clear early on that he did not like being in recording studios. So at the end of the day, he'd hang around for a little bit, and then he'd get the impulse to go because he couldn't stand being there for a second longer. And he'd be like, he'd ask if I needed him anymore, and I'd be like, oh, it's okay. Oh, you don't need me anymore. Oh, go. All right, Tony. He'd call for his valet, and he'd just be out the door in a flash, and that was it. He'd be gone.
Do you remember his vocal chain?
I think it was very similar. Once I worked on Supra Known, I pretty much was pretty religious with a Neve 1073, or I think maybe a 1081. We may have used a 1081 on his voice. Generally, it was a 1073 to an 1176 with a GML 8200 on the back end. And his vocal mic was a Neumann M49.
Oh. To watch the full video, click the link below and don't forget to subscribe.